The film which you are about to see is an account of the disaster which befell a father in North America's most deadliest volcano. Originally from the small suburb of Damascus near the city of Portland, Oregon, John Flemp was working as a longtime UPS driver and would occasionally go on hiking trips to beautiful Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, which luckily for him was only a short 2-hour drive north of where he lived in Washington State. Though if you are familiar with the park, then you know that there is a sleeping giant that inhabits these lands. And of course, I'm speaking of the infamous Mount St Helens active volcano. And if you are unaware, this sleeping beast already erupted back in 1980 with one of the most powerful eruptions in North American modern history. Well, our friend John would frequently like to hike around this now sleeping volcano. He was even planning a weekend getaway trip to celebrate his son Jared and his return home from a 1-year deployment to Iraq. And so on the fateful day of April 4th, 2008, John, his son Jared, and John's friend Rob Mays all rode out to the national park. The first day, everything went to plan. They were able to get in some great hikes, see some great scenes, and make up camp for the night. On Saturday morning, the group decided to wake up extra early and was going to get in a full day of snowmobiling. And by the time afternoon had came around, the group had made it to about the west crater rim of Mount St Helens. The 3 men parked their snowmobiles, and while Rob waited near the vehicles, John and Jared would crawl on all fours out to within 10 to 20 feet on a piece of impacted ice overlooking the edge of the crater. And as the cold air hit their faces and the smell of sulfur filled their noses, they remembered thinking to themselves on just how beautiful this really was in this once-in-a-lifetime moment. But just then, without warning, the impacted ice that they were standing on gave way. Jared then slid a few feet down, but luckily Rob was there and able to grab him and pull him back to safety. But unfortunately for John, before he even realized what happened, he was already falling an incredible 200 feet down the inside wall. Luckily, he was able to land on a snowbank below. Now a little disoriented and banged up, he began to try to climb his way back up. Though as he did this, he heard a massive crack, and before he knew it, he was falling another 1,500 feet down below. As if something straight out of a nightmare, there was nothing he could do but pray and brace for impact. Luckily though, he was able to survive. Though when John got to the bottom, he must have been flushed with adrenaline because his first instinct was to try to climb back up, regardless of any of the injuries he had suffered. But just then, another avalanche hit and carried him back down. Luckily though, it wasn't a massive one, and so it just carried him back down to where he was. Though knowing he didn't just fall down any ordinary mountain, and that this was still an active volcano, he started to fear that he could at any time fall through. Though being very cold, he started to crawl over to a steam vent to stay warm. Back up top, luckily Jared and Rob were able to call for help immediately after the accident, which was around 5:30 p.m. The park rangers were then able to get together a rescue crew comprising of the North Country's Volcano Rescue Crew and 2 paramedics, all traveling via helicopter. At first, all the rescuers could really see in the snow was a tiny black dot. As they approached, they all noticed that John's left leg had been hyperextended and that he had a ton of scrapes and bruises, but he was still alive, most likely due to his helmet, heavy boots, and riding equipment, is all what's likely what helped him survive the 1,500 to 1,700 foot fall. They were then able to get John onto the helicopter and later into an ambulance that was able to transfer him to Legacy Emmanuel Hospital and Health Center in Portland, Oregon. As soon as he got home though, he learned that the inside and outside ligaments to his left knee were both torn, leading to his knee bending the other way. And though John is not the only person to have ever fallen into Mount St. Helens, he is one of the only ones to survive. Originally from Kelso, Washington, Joseph Bohlig was another such victim. Joseph also lived a lot considerably closer to the park and was even considered a veteran climber as he already had 68 treks of the volcano already. He had even climbed in places like Switzerland and Japan, so to say that this was his passion would be an understatement. Though on the fateful day of February 15th, 2010, him and his best friend, Scott Slavics, both thought that it was a good time to make it number 69 on the trek up the volcano. The two were able to reach the top of the volcano after about 4 hours of hiking at about 1 p.m. As soon as they got up there, Joseph wanted to take a picture immediately, and so he took off his backpack and jacket and handed his camera to Scott. Though, as Joseph was backing up to the edge of the crater, just then, that's when the snow gave way. Scott immediately threw himself towards the edge to try to catch his friend, but it was too late. All he remembered thinking to himself, "No, no," as it was the first time that he truly had a huge sense of helplessness. Then, out of pure panic, Scott tossed a backpack with supplies into the crater in hopes that it would help his friend, though it was determined that unfortunately the backpack landed out of his reach anyway. And all Scott could do was watch in horror as his best friend tumbled down a 1,500 feet fall down rock and ice into a volcanic crater. And as there was also other people who saw the accident, a rescue team was already on its way. That was on its way from the Wembley Island Naval Air Station. And luckily, the crew had already located his body, but due to high winds, they couldn't go near it, and had to wait until Tuesday the next day. Though overnight, the temperature dropped significantly, not making any matters any better. In early Tuesday, a rescue crew reported seeing no movement from the climber, whose torso was now covered in snow, except for his arms, legs, and head protruding out. And later, when weather was finally able to clear, a rescue crew was able to lower a medic into the crater, as they were finally able to get Joseph's body out of the volcano. The crew then transported his body to the Clark County Medical Examiner's office, where exact cause of death was determined. And now, unfortunately, all Scott can remember from that day was that Joseph was getting his picture taken. And all of a sudden, he saw a crack and him grasping for the edge with a look of surprise and fear on his face, and then him just disappearing. And now may Joseph Bohlig rest in peace. Let me know in the comments, what would you do if you're hiking on Mount St. Helens, and the next thing you knew, you were falling inside the most infamous volcano in North America. And once again, thank you for watching. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and turn on the notification bell for more content in the future. Goodbye for now.